ADHD is made up, it's not what you think it is, and your understanding of it is hurting you. So, the first thing to understand is that your level of attention exists on a spectrum from low to high, weak to strong. The same way your physical strength or your physical endurance also exists on the spectrum. You might be able to do 0 pull-ups, 1 pull-up, 15 pull-ups, 20. You might be able to run a mile in 20 minutes or in 4.5 minutes. Now let's take pull-ups for example. You might consider someone who could do, 12 or more pull-ups pretty strong. And you might consider someone that can't do 1 pull-up on the weaker end, right? Now, of course, there's a lot of factors that go into it, like their body weight, the length of their arms, their age, their sex, but just as a general reference point, we have some idea of what we consider someone strong and someone weak when it comes to pull-ups, and that might be different for everybody. What we don't have is some term like weak pull-up disorder if a person cannot do a certain amount of pull-ups. We do not diagnose someone for not being able to do a certain amount of pull-ups and medicate them in order to compensate for their weakness of physical strength. When it comes to the amount of pull-ups you can do, you can lose weight, or you can do reps, train, get stronger, and move along that spectrum from weaker to stronger. You're not considered to have a disability if you can't do 1 pull-up. But in a way, you are less functional or less capable if you're not able to do 1 pull-up. And if you're able to do more pull-ups, you're more functional and capable in certain ways as well. Maybe when it comes to lifting things or climbing, just everyday physical feats or athletic feats. But because our society has become so intellectually based, not being able to do a certain amount of pull-ups isn't considered something worth diagnosing, labeling, and prescribing medication to. You just work out if you think being able to do more pull-ups will better your life. ADHD and attention is the same thing. And with pull-ups, some people just genetically, without even working out, are just born and grow up in a way where they're naturally more capable of pull-ups. Without even working out, they might be able to bust out 5 or 10 or whatever. And some people are on the much weaker end of the spectrum naturally, and they can't do any without specific training or working on it. But the vast majority of all people, if they put in the time and they put in the effort, can increase the amount of pull-ups they can do well beyond any person can do without any training, even a genetically gifted one. There's a small percentage of people who are born with physical impairments where even with training, they may never be able to do a pull-up, or the amount they're able to do will be very limited compared to the average person. But that's a small percentage of people. And all of this is the same thing with ADHD. There's only a tiny percentage of people who are actually born with something to do with their brain chemistry or just anything affecting their attention, where they're genuinely not able to increase it or be on the level of the average person who actually puts in effort. But more than likely, that's not you. More than likely, just like you don't have any real major physical impairments, and if you worked on it, your pull-ups can increase and you can get strong in the pull-up department. The same thing is true for your attention. You don't have ADHD. And when in the beginning I said that ADHD is made up, I just mean that in the same way that we can choose anywhere on the pull-up spectrum. Let's say 4 pull-ups. Okay, if you can't do 4 pull-ups, then we say you have pull-up weakness disorder or whatever, right? It just means that we collectively as people chose some parameter of pull-ups where we consider it a medical issue, something that affects your regular healthy living. But we have nothing like that. So in a sense, we just made up something like that with ADHD and attention. We just chose somewhere where, oh, if you have this little amount of attention or have this amount of trouble paying attention to stuff or focusing or not getting compulsively pulled to other things, then we diagnose you as having ADHD. Because in this world, in this economy where your bosses want you to focus on your work and not get distracted and just be a robot, or to be a child in school who's not disruptive and not energetic, if you have a certain amount of attention issue diagnosed and you get drugged up. And I'm not saying it's not necessary or very useful for a tiny select few, but I just think that the vast majority of you would be better off thinking and seeing ADHD totally differently, thinking it more like the pull-up analogy. You can train your attention, you can increase your attention. It's not like nearsightedness where as your vision degrades, you can't really do anything about it except get glasses or LASIK surgery. Pills like Adderall are not the only solution to ADHD, to an attention deficit. You want to take responsibility for the deficit in your attention and know that you can do something about it. You can naturally increase it. There's different ways to do that, but the first and foremost, you have to understand and realize that it's something that you can actually work on. It's not something you've just inherited or are stuck with. It's not useful to blame your genetics or to blame, smartphones and social media and TikTok for degrading your attention. There's some truth to that. And if you're in that tiny percentage of people who really have a real issue, just like a tiny percentage of people are born blind or, missing arms so they can't even do pull-ups, a tiny percentage of you have a real disorder when it comes to attention, but that's not the majority of you. The majority of you are better off understanding and taking attention into your own hands. Just like your physical health, just like your mile time, just like the amount of pull-ups you can do. You can change your diet, you can change your exercise. When it comes to your mind, you can increase your attention. You can stop saying you have an attention deficit. You can stop taking pills and relying on big pharma in order to find the focus and motivation to get moving, to actually live life. You can break out of this cycle of having your attention reduced from social media and your smartphone, and then having to go get medicated and rely on big pharma, and then needing to take that just to show up to work and focus and be a wage slave. You can break out of that cycle. Another analogy is like everyone complaining about being stiff and having back pains and knee issues. You can do something about that. You're not born with that. It's not something you have or something that's you're just stuck with. You could work on your flexibility. You could work on your range of motion. You can stop acting like you're just a victim to this and there's nothing you can do about it. There's something you can do about it. It's your body. It's your mind. Take control. Take responsibility. Blaming just takes your power away. The parents who give children the tablets and smartphones too early, take responsibility for that. If you bring your phone with you to the bathroom and to bed and you're always on it, take responsibility for that. The social media companies and tech companies engineer all these things to be really addictive and to capture your attention. Just like a lot of the food companies make their junk food addictive on purpose. But still, control what you can control. Blaming them and solely blaming them is not going to make you healthy. It's not going to return the power to you. You have the power to exercise your attention. You have the power to choose which companies you support. If you don't support some of these social media companies, or you don't support other companies that you just think are exploiting the people, then don't put your money there. If you're investing in the stock market, but you're complaining about capitalism or the way the economy works, you're contributing to the issue. And you can say, oh, well, it's the only solution. It's the only way for me to invest my money and have a retirement. It's not the only way. It might be the easiest way. It might be the most convenient way, but it's not the only way. There's always other ways to do things. You can get creative. It's probably going to be uncomfortable. It's probably going to take more work, and that's why you avoid it. But if all of us just do what's easy and convenient, then we just fall right into the hands of the very people we complain about, or the very companies or entities we complain and blame for everything. At the end of the day, it's the decisions we make. We can choose to keep all this going and support things that we bash by giving it our attention, giving it our money, or we can place our attention elsewhere. We can put our money elsewhere. We can vote with our actions what matters to us and what we really care about. And I specifically point out ADHD in this video because there's like an epidemic going around of poor attention and using specifically that as a scapegoat for a person not being capable or a person being irresponsible or unaccountable. Yes, if you're physically weak, you might have some trouble with everyday tasks, but that doesn't mean you need someone to come and provide you a handicap too. Yes, we want to help those that are lesser abled, for sure. Like if someone can't walk, we want them to have a wheelchair. If someone can't see very well, we want them to have eyeglasses. But if you have a relatively normal body and mind, and you just have trouble with everyday tasks because you're physically weak, that's on you. There's something you can do about it. And if your mind lacks attention and is physically weak in that department, that's on you. There's something you can do about it. We've become the society that competes to become the most oppressed, to be the most disadvantaged, because those things come with special treatment. It's like a weird loophole to gaining some kind of power. That's not the way we should be doing things. I'm totally for having compassion for those who have it more difficult and really need a lift, really need some support. And all of us need some support and some lifting up to some degree. But there's a big difference between that and identifying as disadvantaged or disabled or less capable when there's something you can do about it simply so that you can feel more. But there's a big difference between that and identifying with being less capable, being disadvantaged, being more oppressed, simply so that you can play the victim and use that as a scapegoat for not making the progress in your life that you wanted to, or not fulfilling the dreams that you have for your life, for falling short, for being lazy, for not being accountable. There's a big difference there. We as a society need to start taking the responsibility upon ourselves. That's the only way things change. The way to do it isn't to come up with as many ways as possible of why you're oppressed or disadvantaged and then seek some central government to give you handouts and make life easier for you. The way to do it is to start with your own power, to become more capable, more effective, more healthy, and then you can reach out to those in your community and help out those who are behind you, those who need the support. And because you've made the strides yourself in order to become healthier, wealthier, happier, you know what it takes, and you can actually provide true help. Not just give handouts, not just give them fish, but teach them how to fish. I made this channel because I want to help people. I made some realizations in my own life, especially about taking responsibility and being the change that you want to see in the world. I realized that life gets a lot better when you take the power back into your own hands, when you stop blaming everything and you start focusing on what you can control, and you stop judging yourself. If you feel like you're behind in some way, if you feel like you're weak in some way, whether it's physically, mentally, or whatever else, that's okay. That may not feel good, but when you can be real with yourself, then you can actually make a difference. If you're willing to see the truth, you can do something about it. If you hide the truth from yourself, you're really screwing yourself over, and you're screwing everyone else around you over too. I know this video is gonna offend some of you, and that's okay. We've gotten so strangely overprotective of our egos and psyches to the point where somehow being offended is almost like a criminal offense or like the worst thing you could do to somebody. It's not. It's okay to be offended. Sometimes you need to be offended. If you get offended, it's probably pointing out something in you. If you're bad at cooking and someone eats your food and they tell you it sucks and you get offended, it's either one, something you need to hear in order to get better, or two, not true, and there's no reason to get offended. There's no reason to take it personal because it's their opinion. That's a whole nother topic for another video, but I hope this helps. If there's anything you want to share or ask me about, please leave it in the comments. I'd be happy to have a discussion about anything related to this or unrelated to this, as long as it's a genuine discussion. When it comes to taking responsibility and making a positive change in general, it can be an uphill battle. I still make my mistakes. I still skip workouts. I still go on my phone more than I want to or feel is healthy for me. I still eat junk food sometimes when I tell myself not to. But just know that with all these things, it is something that you work. But just know that with all these things, it is something you can work on. It is something you could make a difference in. You're not just stuck with it. You're not just subject to it and have no say, no will. That's the most important thing. It doesn't matter if you're perfect. Just start making little changes, start taking responsibility, and life will get better for you, and life will get better for everyone around you. Thanks for watching.